This message is about how to fall in love with the life that we have already been given. Many years ago, before I had my awakenings, I had years of phenomena, all sorts of different kinds of phenomena happening. And anything from prophetic dreams. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning and have from a dream, and then the next day this dream would manifest itself. Being psychic and hearing angels, spontaneous drawings, spontaneous downloads of information for people. And once the awakening started, I found all this phenomena disappeared. So no longer needed in my life anymore. The only, I wouldn't really call it phenomena, the only thing that remained was a profound sense of intuition. One of the phenomena that really struck me was the ability to be shown the future. So how this would happen is I'd be going about my day and an image like a photograph would appear in front of my face, and that image, minutes or hours, or I think the longest gap I ever had was a day later, I would walk into that exact same image with 100% accuracy, or it would come to me. So one of those images was I was in my home, and I saw my stepfather walking down the path. This is years ago, and knocking on my door, coming into the house and giving my daughter a £1 coin. And then it disappeared. And then about an hour later, I was in the hallway. I saw him coming down the path. Obviously, I let him in. He was chatting, and before he left, he gave my then small daughter a £1 coin. And then on another occasion, I had dropped my daughter off at her father's, not knowing what their plans were. And the next day, I went off to the supermarket. And as I got out of the car, this image came to me of my daughter and her dad. And her dad had got a trolley full of shopping, and they were between the alarm barriers. So I shut the car door and the image went away. I walked up to the entrance of the supermarket, and there they were, exactly as I'd seen them. And for some reason, that particular instant, it really blew, at the time, it really blew me away. I just couldn't understand how it was possible for this to happen. And then I reflected on this phenomena and how maybe I thought it was a portal of time that's opened. And then I was thinking, how have I seen this? How is it possible to see it with the physical eyes? And of course, I don't know how that works. I don't know. And I realised it doesn't matter, because the message that was really, I think that was trying to grab my attention was that your life already exists. And which then sent me down another rabbit hole, which was about time and space, which was about about free will. And I didn't like that. I didn't like the idea that there wasn't free will. But of course, my awakenings hadn't happened yet. And these moments in my life were all, I think, by grace and invitations. They were always to show me what was coming. And so, so I concluded that my life has already happened. And my job, if you like, is to fall in love with the life that already exists, and to not resist and try and create another alternative life in my head, which of course I was doing. And my seeking days then was very much about not suffering and about spirituality was about just some kind of an addition to the ego, an addition to my life in some way. It wasn't, in those days, it wasn't about finding truth and in that way. I wasn't ready for the death of the ego. So this phenomena was a gift in disguise. It was to show me that you actually don't need to worry about your life. It's all unfolding perfectly. And the falling in love with it is enormous trust. And so if everything already exists, this would make sense why clairvoyance, a good clairvoyant, can pick up on energies of events that already exist. So it explains perfectly to me. What might be uncomfortable is the mind hearing that there's no free will, but it's illusionary. The mind is always catching up with what already exists. So I'll give another example. Years and years ago, I was driving along and I had the intuition to make sure that my small daughter's, her seatbelt was pushed down. I was driving at the time and something told me to just push the belt down just to double check, even though I knew I'd done it. Within seconds of doing that, these young boys on bikes shot out in front of my car and I slammed the brake on. And everything was fine. Nobody was hurt. So something in us is able to pick up events that do already exist. But what tends to happen is the mind can sometimes, like for example, when somebody's quite young and they know what they want to do when they're older, and then as they get older, they say, well, it appears as if you've made things happen, when all you've done is fall into fall in line with something that's already there for you. But it's the mind that lags behind and claims it. But either way, it doesn't matter whether you believe in free will or not. It really doesn't matter, because your life still has to be lived. So this message is about the how you live this life. You're still going to live it anyway. You could be waiting in your head for some nice house somewhere or something. The point is that you fall in love with your life as it is now, and embrace everything as it is. And it doesn't mean that by doing that you're surrendering to something that all of a sudden you're giving up control, and which would be great, to give up that sense of control through anxiety and fear. But what it means is that there's more opportunities, in a way, more subtle things become available to you, because you're not hell-bent on your life going in a certain way. So if you kind of embrace the idea that you could fall in love and not care what happens next, not worry what happens next, and that you're completely open to all the kind of possibilities, the mind will come in. It does come in. It wants to claim things. That's a part of the journey. That's a part of it, until consciousness gets its foot in the door of your life, and then you start to see the ways that you resist how it all is. But it is all unfolding perfectly.